Grand.
Fucking Home Improvement X Doctor Who.
Oh my god, I didn't even think of that, but you're right. Fucking Tim Tooltime Taylor or whatever the fuck he's called coming out of the TARDIS. Gets fucking roasted by a Dalek.
Welcome to the worst podcast ever.
What are we doing, man? Oh god, it's so hot today.
Yeah, it is.
It's like you on stream when you're like, it's so hot.
It's too hot. But even in this show, we can take off our clothes and no one notices, But on stream, it's like, you'll get banned on Twitch if you show feet.
Will actually, If you show your feet or your nipples or just that you're having too much fun, Twitch will come after you.
They'll come after you and beat you.
I'm actually going to open my door, so if there's wind and stuff, I apologize. But I'm actually... It's so warm here. Oh, God. Hello and welcome to Creature Club, a podcast recorded during a heat wave all about the monsters of Dungeons & Dragons. Every week we take a monster from the 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons Monster Manual, and we talk a little bit about it. We sort of dissect it. We talk about what it is, what we might do with it, and, what you might do with it in your game. I am your host, Daniel, and I am joined by Mikey.
Hello, I am your host, Mikey, and I'm joined by
That's true.
Daniel.
Hello. Thank you for having me, Mikey.
No, thank you for having me, Daniel. Yeah, we're still trapped in the dragon capture jar. So, get us out, please. If someone can.
Does anyone have remove trap?
Yeah, does anyone remove trap or I don't know, some sort of
Harpy's feather duster or
I have no idea about cards that remove traps. I just completely blanked there. Yeah, so we're still here doing dragons, but we're coming at the end of it here, and we decided to go back to the first couple of pages where they talk about dragon templates, things that you can like a template you can put on your already existing dragons. All the dragons we have went through before, these two templates can go on top of any of the dragons. And the first one we're going to talk about today is the mean, undead, super intelligent creature, the Dracolich, which is, as you can probably tell by the name, it is a dragon lich.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. It's we have a nice illustration here in the book of sort of the skeleton of a dragon, which, interestingly enough, skeletally it sort of reminds me of a T-Rex.
Yeah.
But obviously it's got wings and longer arms. True. And it's kind of like its skin is falling off it, and you're seeing its skeleton underneath. And that's pretty persistent. Like the first Dracolich, unlike a lot of our other draconic friends, the first Dracolich does not appear in the first edition of the game and actually appears in the second edition of the game in the Monster Manual.
Okay.
There's a lot of really interesting stuff in this section, actually. It's a whole 2 pages, so I won't go over all of it. But a lot of what we see in the 5th edition book is what we see here. The dragon is an existing dragon. It gathers a cult of followers. The cult of followers give it a spell and a potion. It drinks the potion, and it then dies and is reborn as a Dracolich.
Yeah.
So sort of the big change is there's actually a really cool... and there's stuff... This is the kind of stuff that I actually think is kind of fun in older editions, although I will admit it's not super useful. In the second edition book, in the Monstrous Manual, there's actually there's actually a pretty cool thing, which is a list of ingredients for the potion. And it doesn't give a complete list, but it says... must contain several ingredients, including a potion of dragon control, a potion of invulnerability, and the blood of a vampire. And so immediately I love that because that tells you 3 things the dragon wants. That's a quest.
Yeah.
Like get these 3 things or stop someone from getting these 3 things. Like that's a quest right away.
Yeah.
But also, even cooler, there's actually a D100 table of results for when the dragon drinks the potion.
Okay.
And so 51 to 100 is that the potion works normally. So there's about there's a 50% chance that the potion just works.
Yeah.
But there's actually a bunch of tables. There's like results that do other stuff. Like there's a small chance that the potion doesn't do anything. There's a good chance that the potion doesn't work, but actually poisons the dragon, and the dragon is then useless, like powerless for a number of rounds of combat, basically. Like, and also it suffers damage from the potion.
Yeah.
And there's also then a very small chance that the potion doesn't work and the dragon dies, but the dragon can't be restored to life except with wish. So, like, in other words, it's like super dead.
Yeah.
Almost like the first half of the potion worked, but not the second half.
I can see why they got rid of that, to be honest, because it's kind of cool, but also a lot of there's a chance that it just gets rid of the drama of it, which I know that was kind of D&D back then. It was more like kind of kind of a bit more realistic in a way, kind of more about simulating kind of realistic scenarios with these fantasy kind of characters. But it seems like, imagine, go up against this dragon and the main boss just drinks the potion wrong and they die, or they become useless enough for you to beat them up. It's just, it's cool, but, I wouldn't really want to do that in my game, personally.
Yeah. It's definitely very different. Like, I think, like, because of the fact that the dragon suffers damage and then is basically paralyzed for a number of rounds, suggests that the intention of the table is basically that the party have, like, broken into the chamber as the dragon is drinking the potion. And so the table maybe suggests that, like, hey, there's a chance that this goes wrong. Like, if your players have failed to stop the dragon getting the ingredients, you can still do a kind of another confrontation where the dragon goes to drink a potion and the potion doesn't work, and now they have, like, one last chance before, the dragon creates another potion because they have the ingredients now or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, so, like, I know what you mean. Yeah, the table's kind of unnecessary, but it's interesting, certainly. And I only mentioned it because I think tables like this are always interesting because they cause you to ask questions, because, like, some players might say, well, why is this here if it's kind of supposed to be about the story of it? And other players might say, well, is there any way to make the table different? Like, is there any way to make the potion more likely to succeed if I have a very cautious dragon?
Yeah.
Are they going to, like, play the odds somehow? Is there a way to do that? And, like, just asking those questions are kind of cool. Just being able to think about it and, engage with the content and make it your own and stuff like that.
Yeah.
That's basically, like, the big thing from the start. And then the notion of what the Dracolich is outside of that is very similar to everything else we see in the book. So that's in second edition. In third edition, I sent you the third edition art there, Mikey. I think it's absolutely cool.
Yeah, it's very cool.
So exciting.
It's I will make sure we put it up on the Twitter for people to see.
Good idea.
Which we usually do whenever we talk about an image.
Yeah, whenever we mention some art.
Yeah.
The original Dracolich and the third edition. Oh, I have to keep remembering I didn't start on first edition, or I'm going to count wrong for the whole explanation.
Yeah.
Both the Dracolich from second and third edition also had more undead theming. They both actually had some ability to control the undead. There was kind of an implication, which was interesting, that, like, they're almost like, because dragons are top of the food chain in, naturalistic society, that when they become liches, they become, like, the top of the food chain in, like, the undead society.
Right, yeah.
And so they can command undead and things like that. And it even says, I think in the second edition book, that, like, any undead that want to resist have a massive, like, penalty to do so. Like, it's actually hard to resist the will of a dragon. Which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
In fourth edition, we see the regular Dracolich we know and maybe not love, but we know.
We know.
Know of him.
Yeah, we know of him.
In the first monster manual, and the art for that one is kind of, I think it's fine. It's very safe in a way that the other arts, like, are kind of more exciting, and so it didn't really stun me, but it's similar to what we've kind of gotten used to. There's a little bit of sort of stuff left over from third edition. In third edition, the Dracolich had a paralyzing gaze, and in fourth edition it became a mesmerizing gaze, but actually did something quite similar. And then in the Dragonomicon, We got 4 variant Dracoliches.
We can go into the abilities of them at dessert time, but we'll just give the names there just to give people a taste of what we have.
Absolutely. The names are the Bone Mongrel, the Stoneborn, the Ice Wrought, and the Dream Breath, who is, here's another quick spoiler, my favorite.
Yes, it's cool. Dream Breath is just,
so cool.
Like having, what would a dragon's Dream Breath do to you if they shot that shit?
It would probably be like some weird version of, you remember the way the gold dragon could like telepathically communicate with you in your sleep and stuff like that?
Yeah.
It'd probably be a version of that where like you get breathed on and then you get inceptioned by the dragon.
Yeah. This reminds me of like Time Breath with like a time dragon, where they make you grow old or young or something. Was that what it did?
I think so, yeah. It it had aging breath.
Time Breath. Whenever I hear Time Breath, I'm like, what the fuck is that? Like, that shouldn't be. But they're very cool. We'll go into them later when we're talking about our ideas for the Dracolich.
Yeah, absolutely. Do we want to look at the base book?
Let's do it. Yeah,
base book, the 5th edition book. What's wrong with my brain?
The base.
It's too hot.
Book. All right, so yeah, Dracolich. I'll read verbatim. Dracolich. Even as long-lived as they are, all dragons must eventually die. Wow, good one to start off there.
Wow, cool.
This doesn't sit well with many dragons. Okay, yeah, with many, like humans, I guess. Some of which allow themselves to be transformed
Very relatable.
by necromantic energy and ancient rituals into powerful undead Dracoliches. Only the most narcissistic dragons choose this path, knowing that by doing so, they sever all ties to their kin and the dragon gods. So that's pretty interesting. That's an interesting first paragraph to say there. Where they're just kind of their dragon culture, I guess, or the kind of culture.
They're basically like what we would consider our humanity. Like,
Yeah, absolutely.
Beyond death, a Dracolich retains its shape and its size upon transforming. Its skin and scales drawing tight to its bones or sloughing away to reveal a skeletal form. Its eyes appear as glowing points of light floating in shadowy sockets, hinting at the malevolence of its undead mind. Though many dragons pursue vain goals of destruction and dominance, Dracoliches are more nefarious than the most evil dragons, driven to rule over all. A Dracolich is a fiendishly intelligent tyrant that crafts complex webs of foul schemes, attracting servants motivated by greed and a lust for power. Acting from the shadows and actively plotting to keep its existence a secret, a Dracolich is a cunning and challenging foe.
Very cool.
Yeah, very cool. So it just kind of gives you the stakes of like what this creature wants and what it's like, what you should expect from it.
Dracolich phylacteries. So here's the lich part. Creating a Dracolich requires the cooperation of the dragon and a group of mages or cultists that can perform the proper ritual. So standard lich stuff going on there, and standard dragon cult stuff going on there as well. During the ritual, the dragon consumes a toxic brew that slays it instantly. Which you went in there, Dan, a bit about that potion.
Yep.
The attendant spellcasters then ensnare its spirit and transfer it to a special gemstone that functions like a lich's phylactery. As the dragon's flesh rots away, the spirit inside the gem returns to animate the dragon's bones. If a dragon's physical form is ever destroyed, its spirit returns to the gem as long as the two are on the same plane. If the gem comes into contact with another dragon's corpse, the dragon's spirit can take possession of that corpse to become a new Dracolich. If the Dracolich's spirit gem is taken to another plane, the Dracolich's spirit has nowhere to go when its undead body is destroyed and simply passes into the afterlife. Like, as simple as that.
Fucking hell. Just gets in. After all those sins against God and man, you just get into the afterlife.
It's like buying a bag of chips, just like you go in and you say, bang, I just want that, and then you're in the afterlife now.
Chips, please.
Absolutely. Yeah, cool stuff there. Very standard. I'm pretty sure that's just a lich as well. Is that right? Liches kind of work the exact same way as that. And
I believe so. I believe they work on a similar principle.
That's cool. Yeah, just adding the lich and putting it onto the dragon there. It's a very cool idea for a monster, I think. Just slamming two together. So it's great. Two existing monsters, slamming them together. Right, so next is honestly, I think is the meat and potatoes part for this kind of thing. So we just jump into it and play the music.
I think we play the music, we jump into it, and then we jump out of it, and we play the music again.
Here's a template, so it's a bit different. I don't know if we need to go into the block they have, because it doesn't actually look different. It's not different at all, except for the things we will be reading out now.
Yes, exactly.
So templates are a bit different, guys. We're going to be reading out a few things here, and they're going to want you to put this information and this template on top of already existing monster. So go back through the episodes of Creature Club, listen out for what your favorite dragon is, and just put if you want a Dracolich in your game,
and then listen to this at the same
time, and then just like and then scream.
Yeah, and then please do
that, and then you have Dracolich, basically. So
exactly.
All right, so Daniel, would you like to hop into the...
Yeah, absolutely. So Dracolich template: only an ancient or adult true dragon can be transformed into a Dracolich. Younger dragons that attempt to undergo the transformation die, as do other creatures that aren't true dragons but possess the dragon type, such as pseudo-dragons and wyverns. A shadow dragon can't be transformed into a Dracolich, for it has already lost too much of its physical form. A shadow dragon is the other dragon template that we will probably cover next week, just if you are curious. When a dragon becomes a Dracolich, it retains its statistics except as described below. So this is basically all a template is. The dragon loses any trait, such as amphibious, that assumes a living physiology. That Dracolich might retain or lose any or all, jeez, the sentence is a nightmare,
wow.
of its lair actions, or inherit new ones as the DM sees fit.
Might retain or lose any or all of its...
It's like a legal contract.
Have you ever had a dream that where you do something and you do the guy and they and
Oh, that's a fucking cracking reference. Thanks, man. I wonder can we put part of that in. I love that kid, man. He's having such a good time, and he's so pleased with himself after he says it. I'm like, you did it, man. I'm so proud of you. Okay. Type. So the Dracolich's type changes from dragon to undead, and it no longer requires air, food, drink, or sleep.
Makes sense.
Damage resistance. The Dracolich has resistance to...
You good? Are you okay?
I almost said the Dracolich has resistance to neurotic damage. The Dracolich has resistance to necrotic damage, which is a different thing. Neurotic damage is when like you're really worried that if you show up late for work again, you're going to get judged.
Yeah.
So you just have a sick day instead.
Yeah.
Damage immunities. The Dracolich has immunity to poison. It also retains any immunities it had prior to becoming a Dracolich. Condition immunities. The Dracolich can't be charmed, frightened, paralyzed, or poisoned. It also doesn't suffer from exhaustion. Magic resistance. The Dracolich has advantage on saving throws against spells and other magical effects.
So a bunch of cool stuff there. Unfortunately, that's really it. But so you don't really get like any more actions or like abilities, but you do get this stuff here, which is kind of you get some resistance and you get some immunities and condition immunities and a magic resistance, and that's really it. And it's fine, but you're pretty much kind of just fighting a dragon with a few more bits to it, you know?
I agree.
I wouldn't know what to use a Dracolich for other like it would just be a dragon, you know? It's a really cool concept. When I'm reading the book here and reading the you know the flavor up there, I'm just like, that's cool. Dragon, lich, I'm into that. That's great. But the block, the actual fight going on, the matrix room will just be a dragon.
Yeah, basically.
You know,
I would agree. I actually, one thing I will point out just personally, and this is something that sort of, you know, I'm always kind of a bit apprehensive of. I don't appreciate that it says the legal sentence. The Dracolich might retain or lose any or all of its lair actions or inherit new ones as the DM sees fit. It says all that, and then it doesn't actually suggest any lair actions.
It doesn't give you any.
Exactly. It doesn't give you any, but like, and like, you know, like we've been running the game for a while, and we've been going through this book long enough that we kind of know our stuff, or we've just got maybe an instinct for it. But like, so I would say like, oh, well, just steal their actions from like vampires and liches because they're both powerful undead and they probably have like relevant abilities. But I do think it's fundamentally a shame that there isn't any kind of like, oh, well, here's some suggested lair actions for a Dracolich because it's different.
Yeah.
And I'll also say that, like, you know, from what I can tell, comparing to previous Dracoliches, like, less interesting. Like, there's a lot of stuff in the previous Dracolich entries that are, like, that actually slightly change how it works. in a bunch of small ways. Like just to take the second edition entry, for example, as I think I mentioned before, they have the ability to control undead, but it also says they're more effective at causing fear because they're big skeletons.
Yeah, they're
So, like-
spooky, scary skeletons.
Exactly. So in other words, their frightful presence, in the context of 5th edition, their frightful presence would be stronger. The DC to save against it would be higher, or potentially the aura might have other effects. Maybe it deals psychic damage or something.
Yeah.
And in terms of, and then of course it has the paralyzing gaze, which is like when it like locks eyes with you, it stops you from moving. Like it's fear is so great that if it looks directly at you, you're not able to move. And like that's, again, like that is actually, that changes how a dragon fights, because now it has its breath weapons, it has all the tools of a dragon, but it has these like new control abilities and stuff like that like modify how the actual fight itself would play out.
And even looking at just all the 4th edition guys as well that we were talking about, there's like a lot of they have a lot of different cool abilities, and you can probably even just take a few of them if you want to make a specific kind of Dracolich. Just kind of steal them from 4th edition and kind of throw them into like a 5th edition sense. So we'll probably do that right now.
Oh my god.
Play the music. Ooh.
We should probably make that now since we keep referencing it. It's really silly.
Yeah. I don't know. I think Tim Allen will come to my house and beat me up for stealing.
Oh,
the
he
music.
would and all.
Yeah, he would do that.
Hopped up on cocaine, you'd come over to your house and kick your ass.
Yeah.
Behold, my Matrix room.
The Matrix
I think
room.
that's air you're breathing.
I need guns. Lots of guns.
How come they had guns and then they worked in the Matrix simulation? That was interesting. Like, because it's like the safe room. Like, you know the way like he says like we're gonna need like guns, lots of guns, and then they get loads of guns. But like that's like the loading screen for the Matrix basically. But then they get them in the real Matrix, and like that's interesting.
Oh yeah, okay.
Because I don't think they ever like. Because I was just thinking like, did they ever get anything bigger than a gun? Like, do they get their cars from that room, or do they get them from the real world or the digital world? Ugh, my brain.
They just spawn them. I think that's kind of what's going on in the Matrix. They spawn the weapons for them. I think.
I wonder, is there like rules about it? Because like they have a helicopter in that scene too.
Yeah.
Famously.
you and I are both thinking the same thing right now. I think just the Morpheus face.
We're thinking of the exact same like 4 seconds of classic 90s film The Matrix where Lawrence Fishburne Lawrence Fishburne is go on, sorry.
The two of us started laughing because we're both thinking of the exact same scene. Yeah, it's for Lawrence Fishburne and he's or Morpheus.
In the movie,
as Morpheus.
He's
breaking out of the handcuffs, and then the shot of his face was like, yeah.
He's like pulling them apart with his bare hands, and it's actually like a pretty cool scene altogether. Like it's actually it's like all of the Matrix, the original.
It's
Matrix
very badass, yeah.
Very well assembled, like. And it's like it's good, but there's just a moment where he's pulling them apart, and he just goes, and it's just there's something about it, like I think we started referencing it when we were like opening sweets packets or something, and like it just became like this big joke of like whenever you're like trying to do anything.
Yeah, and like Tim does it so well. He's so good at
actually.
it. He used to always do it at D&D. Yeah, and then we were watching John Wick 3, and there's like a shot exactly with Lawrence Fishburne. It looks exactly like it, and then we just reference it, and we just started laughing when we were watching it. Oh, it's a great scene. Anyway,
it is a great scene.
Matrix scene. I'm spawning a Dracolich. What's happening?
Oh, okay. You're spawning a Dracolich. So basically, what happens is the players fight it like a dragon. The big differences are it resists more damage types, which is kind of a slight change, but obviously that depends a lot on the party. I think the much bigger change is, of course, the magic resistance, that it has advantage against all magical effects or spells. So, like, I think that's interesting in some ways, because the original dragon is kind of vulnerable to spells in a way, because it doesn't have many resistances. and like it's it's just sort of a big bag of meat. And the main way it avoids like spells just destroying it is that it has legendary resistances, which it just spends when the players use a big spell on it. So to give it magic resistance does change how the fight plays out.
Magic resistance. Do dragons already have that though? Is it different from what they already have? What's
No,
the
they
thing
don't have
about-
any kind of magic resistance.
Is it a legendary resistance I'm thinking of?
Yeah,
What-
probably,
that's
yeah.
it. Yeah.
But yeah, so yeah, they have another kind of resistance. Now they have two resistances on their profile.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think fundamentally it plays out very similar to the dragon, except the martial characters are going to play a bigger role because it resists spells.
Yeah.
And in fairness, magic resistance plus legendary resistance, obviously they have similar names, but like the fact that it gets advantage on all saving throws, and then even if it starts failing, it can also just automatically pass 3 of them, does probably mean that in the lifespan of a dragon, which is probably around 5 to 7 rounds, it's like the spellcasters aren't going to get any spells off. It's probably in their best interest just to use like attack roll spells or just buff the other members of the party or something.
Yeah.
Because like you hit this thing with maze and it rolls with advantage, and then even if it fails, it's just legendary resistances. You try, I don't know, banishment or whatever, and again it's just like it has such a good chance of like nothing happening because dragons already have proficiency in all of the most common spell saving throws.
Yeah.
And they have pretty good mods generally as well, with the exception of dexterity. And then they also have magic resistance now. So yeah, so in fairness, there is that sort of thing where I do wonder where like would a spellcaster, like a blaster wizard who's like, I'm gonna kick ass, would they feel like actually this fight's kind of boring for me because the dragon's just resisting all my damage and there's nothing I can do.
Yeah.
Which that is how it is. Like sometimes you fight a creature and you're just not equipped for it. But like, yeah, I always think about stuff like that. Like, does that mean that the wizard might kind of check out of the fight because they're like, I just feel like I can't do anything.
Yeah. Then it'll just be kind of like dragons, as you said, are kind of meat bags. So it's not compared to 4th edition, but you will be spending time just smacking it with your swords for a lot of it, and that could get a bit boring if the wizard just doesn't want to do the fun, interesting spells,
That's actually a very good point, Mikey. Yeah, especially because now it's halving the damage of spells, so like it's even more of a meat bag. Like even if the wizard is like committed to doing the spells, it's like chances are the dragon's not going to take nearly as much damage.
Yeah, absolutely. So that could just make the fight a bit longer now, and having fights be long is fine by my standards.
Yeah, of course.
But it's mainly kind of making them interesting, making them making the fight be fun instead of just like, oh, spells don't really work as well as just hitting him with a sword, so let's just do that for the entire 7 or 8 rounds we were fighting him. He's fine. He's fine. Damage resistance, necrotic. Not a whole lot of people have necrotic. I think wizards probably have a few spells, and
and warlocks and stuff like that.
Yeah. So yeah, then maybe they do. Yeah. Yeah, it's fine. It's cool. Do you have any ideas for a Dracolich before we kind of go into the 4th edition guides? Do you have any adventure ideas for a specific a Dracolich?
Well, I suppose like can I use previous editions and just not use 4th edition, or will I stick to what's in the 5th edition book?
No, you can use just anything but 4th edition, because we'll hop into them when we do it.
Yeah, we'll do. Actually, I will say in fairness, there is actually multiple Dracoliches in the original Monster Manual, and I might mention them because I only just noticed them here.
Oh, right. Okay, cool.
So many pages of rules, man. But just very briefly, without touching 4th edition yet, I will say that I think that the ingredients list from the Monstrous Manual, which is the 2nd edition book, that lists here are some ingredients that they need for the potion to make a Dracolich, and even possibly looking at the table of results and considering what you want to do with that is potentially something you do. But I think the main thing would be that either the party are hired to find one of these items and then maybe get more embroiled in this plan to raise a Dracolich over time. Or they know that another group is already pursuing these ingredients and they're trying to stop them, which is kind of immediately interesting because obviously one of the ingredients listed here is the blood of a vampire, which creates a kind of an interesting idea where like these are very dangerous people that they can actually go after vampires. And also creates this kind of cool conflict where like you can kind of do a like the enemy of my enemy, where like the players actually get to team up with a vampire.
Yeah, you go
like
to Dracula's house and you're like, can you help us out? Like, yeah, sure. He took my blood, so let's beat him up.
Or even like, you come to the vampires and you're like, they are coming for you. And maybe they brush you off at first, and then they realize that these guys are a threat, and then they're like, okay, well, let's make a deal. And then so you get like, you do a couple of quests where you get like a vampire ally or something, which becomes cool.
There's something fun about having, and like one of the allies on your team side is just a vampire. You have that as a resource, like just, he can help us out in fights to come, just Dracula basically. And I think I like the idea of him of them needing the vampire blood as well, because you can kind of add that to like it's kind of character and just how it works really as well, where maybe it does need that, it is basically part vampire in a way, where so it does need to like get the blood of humans and like humanoids, so maybe the cultists are taking people around the world to like they need like they need blood, so they're kidnapping people, so that can kind of add to like where are all these people going, and just add stakes, and also maybe kind of add to the breadcrumbs of where this Dracolich is, so you can just add to it, just a little small thing to add there.
Yeah, I was only going to say there's actually some more stuff in this second edition book. As I say, it's 2 full pages of stuff.
Yeah.
But there's just a few other bits and pieces that we can kind of use. If you want to have a kind of... There's a very natural fit here in all of the details it gives you. There's a very natural fit for a story about preventing a dragon becoming a Dracolich.
Okay. Yeah.
So first of all, before you even have a potion, obviously, as we all know, you'll need an item worth at least 2,000 gold pieces. So like in the 5th edition book, this is simplified to like they need a gemstone, but actually in the original book it just says they need a large item that will last almost indefinitely. So they need something that's valuable and resistant to decay. So they normally choose a gemstone because it's an evil dragon, and they pick the gemstone of their color.
A DVD box set of Friends.
A DVD box set of Friends. A DVD box set of The Crown.
Of The Crown. It's a Netflix show.
Just in case my parents want it.
Yeah.
So that's fine, right? Like it says it needs a gemstone, but hey, look, the 2nd edition book immediately veers into like holy shit territory by going. So it says the host must be a solid item of not less than 2,000 gold pieces value and resistant to decay. Brackets, wood, for example, is unsuitable. A gemstone is commonly used by the host, particularly ruby, pearl, carbuncle, and jet, and is often set in the hilt of a sword. And then it gives the actual explanation for how it's done. But like, so now we have not only a special potion that needs ingredients, but a valuable item normally set into like a weapon itself. So, I mean, you can give that to the villains, and that can be like the signature weapon of the leader of the cultists, and that's pretty cool.
Or imagine the Dracolich itself using the weapon, kind of a really big weapon with a big ruby or whatever in there too. So when if you do have to fight the Dracolich, it has a big weapon as well, so it can make the fight a bit harder, and a bit more interesting.
That is actually such a good idea. And even the idea of like, it's a dragon. Obviously, if you fight it before it transforms, it's a dragon boss, but it's got a sword. So now the fight can be actually kind of unique if the players are, if we assume this is a high level party and they're maybe like, dragons are kind of so. You can now give it like a sword and maybe even like a fighter style, like a fighting style from the fighter class.
Yeah.
And basically have like be like a martially trained dragon.
Yeah. And imagine actually if it was like a guy who wants to become a lich. Like a evil wizard want to become a lich, but he actually, it's like, how about if I become a dragon then a lich, or like become a Dracolich or something, kind of skip towards it or something. And that's why he has the fighter style, or maybe he's just a dragon who likes, maybe he's like maybe actually is one like a metallic dragon, like an evil metallic dragon, the one that likes being a knight. Which one?
The silver dragon in 4th edition had that thing of it. Yeah, I think it was silver, wasn't it?
I think maybe, yeah. I think one of them was, or like I don't know, one of them anyway. But when we have read through it, there is dragons who do like certain like fighting styles of humans, so maybe they can easily just know like great weapon fighting or something, Yeah,
and of course we have to remember that the Dracolich is normally a dragon at the end of its life, so it's lived probably hundreds of years and could have easily lived for a time as a human and learned human fighting styles. But either way, the other thing, and this is the thing, because this whole process is so involved. The other thing is that here's how it works. The Dracolich becomes a proto-Dracolich if it loses its body and gains a new form. And a proto-Dracolich is weaker than a normal Dracolich, and the only way it can become a full Dracolich is to eat a part of its previous body.
Whoa.
So this is another kind of, first of all, so fucking cool. And it actually says it has like a supernatural sense for where its previous body was. It's like when you die in Dark Souls and you drop all your stuff and you have to go pick it up. Literally the same basic principle.
Literally the same.
And you even remember where it is.
It's a supernatural sense where I'm like, okay, I died fighting Ornstein and Smo, and I know exactly in the room where it is. Like,
I'm gonna go pick it up, and get killed again. For the 17th time.
For the fucking 20th time.
Oh god, I'm so bad at Dark Souls, man. But it is a good time.
I'm out of humanity, so I can't spawn Slayer to help me.
Oh god, yeah, I can't even get help. And but yeah, anyway, so this is pretty cool, right? It says it needs to eat at least a part of its original body, and then it says that total disintegration of the original body is only possible through disintegrate or similar magic, and the body can be reconstructed with wish or other high level spells. But yeah, so that's another part. There's so many parts to this. Like it's just really cool, and like there's a load of stuff about like the relationship the dragon has with its cultists who created it and stuff. So basically, I think a storyline may be either set where the party have to stop a dragon becoming a Dracolich, or alternatively, a party where a quest where the party have defeated the Dracolich and now it's in its proto-Draco state, and you have to stop it from restoring itself to full power.
Right. Okay.
I think both of those could be really fun campaigns where, like, the players are constantly up against like the will of this powerful cult and the sort of remnants of this dragon. And I think that could be a lot of fun.
Yeah, it seems like that's kind of the strength of the Dracolich, is like those kind of adventures where you're trying to stop it from happening again, I think that's kind of the strength of just any lich-based adventure, stopping a lich to happen, And yeah, that's a cool idea. I like that. That's I quite enjoy that idea for a Dracolich storyline. Shall we go through these interesting 4th edition guys? Do you want to touch upon them?
Yeah, before we do that, I will just mention, as I said before, that the before we jump into those guys, because they're pretty cool and they've got their own thing going on. If you're looking for just a way to make the Dracolich more interesting, the 5th edition one, then I would consider the fact that it has, in 3rd edition, it has the paralyzing gaze, which lets it freeze up its victims for like a number of rounds. And that's just a really straightforward way to make this thing more interesting by giving it more control abilities. You could probably steal the rules for, I don't know, I think we've done a creature that has like some sort of freezing gaze, not like the Medusa or the Basilisk, but like just like that you're paralyzed rather than petrified. But yeah,
it sounds familiar. Yeah.
But yeah, I think we should get into the 4th edition stuff, because the 4th edition stuff is pretty cool.
It is pretty cool. How about actually, I'm just going to read them as well. I won't go through we'll mention some of the cool sounding abilities, but we won't go through the stat blocks because it'll make even less sense of the 5th edition stat blocks.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, absolutely.
So the first one is the Bone Mongrel, and what it says about them, a dragon does not become this sort of Dracolich by choice. A bone mongrel is created from the remains of several dead dragons to form an animate and dully sentient whole. This skeletal dragon is about the size of a large horse, with malevolent light burning from its eye sockets. The denuded bones forming the creatures clearly do not match, and the dragon's skull shows rivets where the lower jaw and various horns have been attached. I'm glad we're not doing a 4th edition creature club, because if this is anything to go by, I would not be able to read anything.
That's absolutely fair.
But that is very cool. Almost like a bone golem dragon
exactly.
ling. You know, it's just kind of not. It's not the Dracolich that we have here. It's kind of like just like it's made up of bones of dragons to make its own new
it's
dragon.
like it's almost
very
like
cool.
an enslaved creature rather than kind of this like scheming, malevolent, powerful thing. It's almost more like an animal or something that's been created by someone else.
Yeah, and going with the fourth edition style where it was kind of more of a war game they were kind of going for, and with like war games you have factions, and I think this guy was kind of supposed to be the weaker kind of just like pawns of the faction, you know? So, but that's a very cool description. So, what kind of cool things do they have? Like, what's their things?
So they've got first of all, they've got a really scary thing where their regular bite that they do all the time. The fourth edition dragons generally didn't have kind of the bite claw tail thing that fifth edition dragons have, because they generally had like more kind of different moves. So they have a bite, and they basically can make a multi-attack where they bite twice. The bite does a bunch of damage. It's all necrotic damage, so it's not physical, which means it's more likely not to be resisted. And also it does ongoing damage. So in other words, at the end of each of your turn, you take damage again. And that's on its basic attack. So first of all, that's incredibly dangerous, because like that's a lot of damage that adds up quickly.
Because that's just a regular attack that's from. So
exactly.
Yeah. And
this is the thing, it makes 2 of these every turn. So like within by the end of the second round, it's probably had a chance to bite everyone.
That's
So that's pretty cool and dangerous. And then also its breath weapon is the Dracolich unleashes a blast of bone shards.
Yes,
which I really like.
Very cool. That's a very cool kind of breath weapon to have for Dracolich. Yeah,
it's so good, man. So this is cool. It kind of reinforces the theme. It does a bit of damage, and then it again deals that ongoing damage. And then it has a really cool mechanic that fourth edition had, that first edition, oh my god, my brain, that fifth edition very rarely used. We've seen it, I think, with the petrification on the basilisk, which is that you take ongoing 5 damage. So again, that's 5 damage at the end of each of your turns. But then it says on the first failed saving throw, the damage increases to 10. And if you remember with the basilisk, it was like if you failed 1 saving throw, you stopped. If you failed 2, you were petrified. So it's that same idea of like, if you keep failing, you'll get punished more. And so like ongoing 10 damage. I mean, I know in 4th edition, everyone had massive health bars, but even still, that's going to get scary very quickly. Like 2 rounds of that, and like, that's, pain in the arse.
Yeah. What I remember about 4th edition, like, you were super powered, but also the enemies were also super powered as well, where they were, they had a lot of things to be able to take down your health very fast as well. So that's cool. They're cool moves there that you can easily add on to a Dracolich, I think, in 5th edition.
Absolutely. And they also have a really interesting thing where they don't have a frightful presence. They have a horrid presence.
Yeah, that's cool. That makes sense.
Yeah, like that it's actually upsetting. But like the cool thing about it is that like rather than frightening you, it actually it causes you are pushed away and dazed. So it's almost more like you're recoiling in fear, like rather than simply not being comfortable around it. Like you're actually like thrown back by the horrible, or like you're forced basically to retreat.
It's
cool.
just really disgusting because it's made up of like different dragon bones and stuff. So you're just kind of like, going back, you're throwing up, or you're kind of just like, this is terrible to look at, like it's just grotesque.
Yeah.
So
that's great.
Yeah, very cool stuff there. So the next one, the Stoneborn Dracolich. Do you want to read bits of that there?
I really like the Stoneborn Dracolich. It's not my favorite, but I really like it. Okay.
Yeah.
Stoneborn Dracolich. Sometimes when a dragon dies, its body comes to rest at the bottom of a lake or a slow-moving river. The corpse is covered over and protected by silt, dirt, and loose rock, slowing the natural process of decay. Over vast periods of time, the bone is replaced by a stone-hard mineral. Unlike other fossilized remains, the decaying forms of a dragon still retain a spark of magic. When such bones are uncovered, they can spontaneously arise as stone-born Dracoliches. Occasionally, sorcerers will raise the bones by inscribing them with necromantic sigils. A stone-born Dracolich is a skeletal creature composed of petrified bone. Parts of it are still imprisoned in rock, yet it moves, albeit stiffly. The dragon's skeletal wings are partly broken and chipped, and its tail ends in a crude block of stone. I just love the sort of, it doesn't mention here, it's really more about sort of the stony skeleton. But I just think that the idea, almost like just the idea of like this, skeleton rising from the bottom of a river, and like it just being like, like brown water running off it, and it's covered in like reeds and like old plants and like mud, and like it's just like this massive, like filthy but like once elegant entity, and it's just like, that's really good. That's such a great, like, it's such an interesting moment in D&D, right? Like maybe the players are on a small island and they're camped out and they're trying to figure out what their next part of the plan is, and like one of them just accidentally like finds this bone because they're foraging for supplies, and this massive thing just rises from the lake around them. It's good.
That's very cool. Yeah, it's a very, very cool imagery going on there with that one. I think it's, out of all the ones there, I think that's the coolest, like, flavor of them all, I think, of the four of them. That's so cool. So what can they do? What's their thing? What's their thing in this one? They're kind of stone and hard to hit, well, by the sounds of it.
Yeah, and they've also got a lot of, like, they've kind of got some, so they've got an interesting thing where they've actually got an aura, which the last guy didn't have. They've got an aura called Grasping Stones, which is that any enemy that starts within 25 feet of it is slowed. So obviously in the context of 5th edition, you probably get to make a save first, but just the idea that like it's kind of almost pulling everyone else into the earth like it was, which is very cool. Its bite is not as exciting as the other one, unfortunately, but it does have...
You're right.
Sorry, this shouldn't make me laugh, but it has an ability you can use as a reaction. When another creature hits it, it can basically explode into bones and like create a cone of damage, which is just the idea of like...
Is that the bone shard splinters?
Basically, yeah. Exactly.
Because bone shard splinters, immediate reaction, like just whenever you hit it, it hits you.
Like, how indignant it just explodes at you.
Yeah, that's just 4th edition dragons that like, oh, you hit me? Oh, I'm going to hit you back just instantly. You're not allowed to hit me. That's why... Okay, I won't go into it again. It's... God, I've talked about this so much. I can't do it.
It's all right, man. We're gonna keep going.
Yeah, thank you.
So that's the bone shard splinter. It's kind of, but like just the idea of like this thing is made up of so many bones that it doesn't matter how long the fight goes on, it always has more to explode at you.
Yeah,
I think that it just made me laugh. But anyway,
where do you keep getting these splinters from?
Exactly. Yeah, like literally, like. But then so then it's got a breath weapon. The breath weapon is actually kind of similar to the one we saw previously. This one hits you and then it immobilizes you, so it stops you from moving.
Right.
And then it again has that this is a little spicier. So it immobilizes, deals a little bit of damage, not a lot, and then it immobilizes you. But every time you fail to clear the immobilization, you take 10 damage. Okay. So it isn't ongoing 10, but it still has that kind of cool, like, well, I say cool, maybe it's not so cool for the players, but I think it's interesting. It's kind of that like punish mechanic of like, if you don't pass the saving throw, you take damage. Yeah. So you really like, you want to do something about it straight away. And I think that kind of stuff is interesting. It adds an interesting like stake to the saving throw, like that you're gonna, not only will failure mean you're still immobilized, but also you'll take damage.
Yeah.
And then other than that, it's just got some standard dragon powers, frightful presence, and a tail sweep, which we've kind of covered in 5th edition.
Yeah.
But I like the kind of, it's got a nice theme where it's got the, the aura that slows you down, so it's hard to get away. It's got the bone shards that punish you for attacking it up close, and then it's got its breath weapon that can just totally immobilize you. So it's got a very strong like theme of like movement control and movement reduction.
Yeah, which is strange because it's a soldier, which 4th edition have these terms to give where that's soldiers, supports, controller, and strikers. And soldiers are kind of like the tanks, it's kind of a control-y based character by the looks of it there. But
I think the idea is that it's a soldier, so it deals damage, but the control-y stuff just make it harder for enemies to run away because it's supposed to be a solo, so like you wouldn't be fighting anything else.
Oh yeah,
it's just so that you don't like run away, basically.
Cool. Well, let's move on. The ice rot Dracolich. When cold winds blow from the glaciers and winter's breath is especially chill, the night is filled with howling, freezing cries. Sometimes these are the hunting calls of an ice rot Dracolich. I was trying to like, it sounded like the Grinch there at the start there, and I was just trying to like remember what's the quote about. What did they say at the start of the Grinch? I forgot.
I can't remember. I'm sorry.
His creature looks like a curling, frothing ocean wave that froze solid at the point of crashing onto the rocky cliffs. The icy form has a vague likeness to that of a skeletal dragon, taking clear shape when it suddenly unfurls its wings. In its frost skull glow eyes of iceberg blue. That's a pretty cool image as well. With that one there, that's a pretty cool kind of dragon there. So kind of an ice dead dragon. Not the best way to describe it there, but that's what I'm going with.
No, I think it was great.
Cool. So this guy, it's a level 16 solo controller, so a bit tougher than the last ones. And what it seems to have the first thing is like it has a frigid blast, which is kind of, it seems to be, what is it? It's a ranged attack, so it's kind of like a breath weapon, but it's the target is immobilized and takes ongoing 10 cold damage. After effect, the target is slowed, so it kind of slows and then takes a ongoing 10. Save ends. That means that if you do the save,
yes.
Yeah.
So in other words, you're immobilized. You take 10 cold damage each turn, but if you save, you're just slowed and you don't take the damage anymore.
Yeah. Okay.
I will say as well that this is kind of a cool thing where the first thing it has is Winter's Wrath, which is an aura. Any enemy within the aura has its cold resistance negated. So in other words, any creature within 25 feet of the dragon cannot resist its icy powers.
Yeah, I didn't see that because I had no idea there's an aura up there.
No, there's a lot of stuff going on here, man.
Yeah.
But what's kind of cool about that is it does this nice thing, and this is something that 4th edition was good at, is that it has an ability that says any creature within 25 feet of it doesn't have cold resistance, and then all of its abilities are max range of 25 feet. So hey, look at that!
Wow.
I'm gonna get within 25 feet and use all my abilities on you. So then it has fucking hell. So then it has frigid blast. It has its breath weapon, which is like an ice breath weapon, but it's cold and necrotic damage, and
wow.
And it says that the target is encased in ice, and then it doesn't say save ends. It just says until escape, which is just vague enough to really frighten me.
How do I get out of this? Until escape.
Escape.
How do I escape? Until escape. Come on.
Yeah.
Man.
So basically, then you're encased in ice, and the only action you can take is attempt a DC 24 strength check to escape the ice. Although, in fairness, it does say that you also escape automatically if you take 20 or more damage. So, like, if you get attacked by the dragon again, you'll get out. But chances are you'll just have to wait for the dragon to hit you because it's a tough old strength check.
Yeah. Deadly chill seems to be
chill. Pretty chill guy.
Chill out. Cool down.
Chill out.
Yeah, it's a burst attack.
The Ice Age.
What killed the dinosaurs? Close burst 5 automatically hits immobilized or slowed enemies. So yeah, if you're encased in ice, then it would just it's good to hit them.
Yeah,
it's just kind of a burst attack that it's a cold kind of aura almost, but not a
exactly.
aura.
It's like almost reinforcing. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and yeah, so like it basically it kind of has this like 1-2 punch of like its basic claw attacks immobilize you, its frigid blast immobilizes you, its breath weapon encases you in ice, and then after it's slowed and trapped everyone, then it uses its deadly chill, and deals just automatic damage to everyone because it hits them automatically. And obviously even if it like chances are, I was gonna say everyone nearby would be slowed, but I forgot that's a different aura.
All right, next one. Go ahead, Dan.
Finally, we've got the Dracolich that I think is the most weird and cool.
Very weird.
It's very weird. It's very cool. Okay. This is the Dream Breath Dracolich. Sometimes a dragon interested in prolonging its existence discovers a way to forsake the physical limitations of animate bone and rotting wings. That's a fucking wild start, man.
Yeah.
Dream Breath Dracoliches have learned how to project a permanent dream of themselves into the waking world, where they can stalk prey through both nightmare and reality forever.
Whoa.
Which is just a wild sentence that really takes you places.
It really does. How does... okay.
A pale white luminescence leaks from the translucent form of this skeletal dragon, and vapor swirls within its ribcage. Its wings stretch wider than seems possible, and across that blank black canvas, the last remaining stars of a dying world sputter and wink.
Okay.
So, initiative or
Initiative XP?
probably initiative.
Wow, that is...
I fucking love this thing, man. It is so weird and badass. Like,
that is
like,
so cool, but it's so high concept. Like, I don't know how you can explain that to your players, just what it is, you know?
oh god, it's so fucking cool. I love it so much. So let's talk about what this thing does. First of all, it has an aura called Nightmare, which is just
Yes.
it's so any creature within 25 feet that is asleep stands up as a free action and moves 5 squares, slides 5 squares, which I think means moves towards the dragon. But anyway, maybe slides means that the dragon can move it. I think that means the dragon can move it as it pleases.
Right.
Which is obviously very dangerous. It's actually got a normal bite, which is kind of surprising. But you know, we're gonna get exciting. It has Nightmare Gaze, which is an immediate interrupt, which basically means it interrupts other people's turns. It's like a reaction in 5th edition.
Yeah.
When an enemy attacks the dragon, and it just looks at them, you done fucked up. So it makes an attack, and it tries to assail your mind with horrible visions. And if it succeeds, you have to attack an ally. Which is just bad. It's the same thing you said before with the bone shards of like, how dare you attack me?
Yeah, you can't attack me. You're not allowed to do that.
So that's pretty dangerous, obviously. You try to hit the dragon and it makes you hit someone else.
And you can do something cool where if you're having a nightmare, then maybe it's like it's giving images to your players of like their worst nightmare, and it's actually in the area where their allies are. So it's attacking like, I don't know, a big spider or something. Even though they wouldn't be afraid of spiders because they're adventurers, but you know what I mean. You know what I mean.
Spiders!
Cobras!
So then we got its breath weapon. Its breath weapon is cool. It hits everyone, and you don't take damage, you just fall unconscious. And then every time you fail the saving throw, you take 10 psychic damage. And then it says something very technical. In the context of 5th edition, this would be the equivalent of losing a spell slot, basically.
Wow.
So that's pretty cool. Then it has... Oh, God, yeah. Then it has Nightmare Presence, which is every creature within 50 feet is immobilized, and then if it fails the saving throw, it also falls unconscious. And then...
this is so kind of reminding me of like a Final Fantasy super boss that would just like...
I know exactly what you mean.
Where they would start off the fight by casting like instant death, and everyone would just die. And like, I should have bought the death immune
rings or whatever.
Rings, This reminds me of that, where it's like, no, like you're not supposed to beat this thing,
or whatever they're called.
You're not supposed to be able to beat this thing, you know.
And then it has Nightmare Roar, where it basically roars at everyone and pushes them and scares them, which is cool. And then it has Nightmare Walk, where basically it gets to turn into a ghost and then moves up to its speed, which I just really like because it's just
that's
fucking
very cool.
Scary and cool. And I love the idea that the player is like, we have to run, we have to get out of here, and it's like, you can't run. Yeah,
this thing is terrifying.
This thing it flies 50 feet around and it can phase through reality. Like, you can't run, guys.
It's just like,
it's so good. It's
throwing this at your players is just like, what did we do to get this? This is like, why did we piss you off or something, Mr. GM? Like,
did we piss you off for real? Is that why this is happening?
I'm sorry that, like, you know, I might have eaten like an extra slice of pizza at the last game, but like, I was hungry.
I love this thing. I know that it's kind of like, obviously it's 4th edition rules and it's a little hard to translate to 5th edition, but I just love this creature so much. I love the idea of it. It's so exciting and weird.
I think, you know, taking inspiration for all these monsters, you can easily, not exactly how it is, but like you can easily take inspiration and make that into a cool 5th edition monster, you know, by taking the template, taking the dragons, and just looking at this and saying, what can I do with that, you know? You know, it's very cool. I quite enjoy it.
It's very good.
Now just reading that stat block, like, it's so, like, the Dream Breath one is so high concept, but like, has a lot of cool moves there. There's a lot of fun stuff going on in that one.
Yeah.
It's just, you know, it's so bonkers, but it's very cool.
It's so weird and cool, and it's got such an interesting, like, even like, you know, one of the things I think is still cool about 4th edition is how, like, you know, if you remove the theming of the Dream Breath, like, it's still got a clear idea where it's a creature that tries to knock you out and put you to sleep, and then it gets to control you while you're sleeping.
Yeah.
Which is like such a scary and cool idea. And like actually the start of a really interesting monster, and the fact that it also does more stuff is even cooler.
And you can easily just like, if you don't even want to go with the Dracolich style, you just make that like a dream dragon or a dream breath dragon, you know?
Yeah, I mean, it's basically
like a Freddy Krueger kind of dragon.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's basically Freddy Krueger. So like, hell, you could even take out the dragon parts of it and just make it this weird like nightmare entity that the players have to deal with.
Yeah. God, like, sorry, people tune in for a dragon episode, but we're just kind of like, no, this is the thing to take away from this dream breath dragon, you know?
It's so cool.
It's very cool. I really like it. That's a very cool thing. You know, going back on the other editions, guys, and older editions is very good for inspiration for
it is
5th edition. So do it, guys.
The only other thing I will mention, just in case people are looking for more stuff, there is one other kind of Dracolich in the original monster manual, not in the Dragonomicon, which is where we got all the weird ones, called the Blackfire Dracolich, where the idea is basically that it's sort of powered by this black flame within it, and it uses it as a weapon and sets its opponents on fire, and they kind of burn with necrotic energy and stuff like that.
Very cool.
Not a lot to say on it altogether. The main thing it does is it has a cool thing where its breath weapon deals necrotic damage and then takes away your necrotic resistance. So like it sort of sets you up to fail against its later attacks, which is actually kind of a nice like 1-2 combo that, like, you know, it uses its breath weapon, gets rid of your resistance to necrotic damage, and then has other abilities like Blackfire that deal necrotic damage, and now you're like not able to resist those anymore. So
yeah,
just like, again, like, you know, like thematically it's maybe like not super keen, but just sort of there's an interesting mechanic there of just like, you know, having this sort of deliberate combo built into its abilities that, you know, even applied to any monster can sort of slightly make it more tactical for your players in terms of what they should consider.
So the last thing I'll just say is, as I kind of just said, or I said before the episode, the Dracolich, this guy is cool, very cool flavor to it, but I feel like the best kind of adventure that you can do is what you said, Dan, where you're trying to stop not people, but dragons becoming a Dracolich. You know, you're trying to stop the cult from making this thing appear, you know?
Yeah.
Because the fight itself is not the most interesting. I don't think that's supposed to be the most interesting part of it. I think it's the lore and the flavor of it is the most interesting. Although, with that said, these 4th edition guys are all very cool. So
yeah, I would agree. Yeah, I think all the 4th edition guys have enough of a unique gimmick that you could kind of translate them into 5th edition and maybe even make a campaign about hunting down these 4 Dracoliches, right? Like almost like specifically like your monster hunters after these 4 creatures, and
absolutely,
that's the whole campaign.
Maybe this dragon cult were like, because it seems like in the 4th edition it's more about, like, except for the later stronger ones, it's more about they didn't choose to become these things. I know that's what the Bowmongrel mainly, but it seems like maybe this dragon cult were making these, you know, and they made these 4 powerful Dracoliches, and you have to fight them all in sequence. You know?
I mean, that's actually a fair point. Like the Stoneborn and the Bone Mongrel are both kind of explicitly like an accident. And so you could even have the adventure literally be like that a group of metallic dragons basically hire the party to like put these other dragons to rest, because it's like within their society it's like the moral thing to do, and so they're kind of asking you to do it as arbiters.
Maybe the Dream Breath was actually made by the cult as well, where they just like, let's just all like dream these malicious thoughts, and then it'll just become a thing from it. You know, like it's a strange concept, but it's just like if you're gonna go with it, it's like,
I love that.
It's because it's just like the belief made it, you know, and like
literally like this creature is like a collective nightmare. That's like really cool.
Yeah, and then it's like that's how it became to exist. Like this, what is this thing? Like, oh, it's like the collective nightmare of all these people, and it made it. You know, and that's so high concept, but it's very cool. I like that. I love it.
Yeah, it's good, man. Absolutely.
And the ice rod is pretty cool. We can do something with that too.
And it's also here.
And he's here too. Maybe the cult kind of found like the bones of like an icy dragon that was underneath the ocean or something, and you can just go with that. I don't know, like it's cool, but it's not as cool as the other ones. So shall we leave it there?
Yes,
let's leave that there, guys. So that has been the Dracolich. That's pretty cool monster, pretty cool ideas, interesting ideas, but we will leave it at that. So once again, if you guys want to use this, just plop the template onto whatever dragon you want, any dragon at all. It's up to you. You have to do a bit of homework on this one. So
unfortunately, this episode is very much like you have to do homework, which is sort of a bad time. But there you go. There
wasn't a classic stat block as we normally go through it, but and the same will be for next week when we go into the Shadow Dragon. We'll talk. There's a bit more stuff there, and actually, by the looks of things, it has a few more interesting things.
It's got a little more going on.
Yeah, a little bit more going on with that one. So look forward to that one. So yeah, guys, thank you so much for listening to Creature Club this week. We do this all the time, and we talk about dragons all the time. Apparently,
we actually do talk about dragons all the time.
We're still here talking about dragons, and we will be for a little while.
We're almost out.
If
you've enjoyed this, you can subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. If you have something to say, why don't you just say it to us, huh? All right. Why we always have to push you to say something first?
Say it to our face, man. And you can say it to our collective face on Twitter at Creature Club Pod or Creature Club Podcast on Twitter. Look it up, or on our website on our Contact Us form,
or you can email us creatureclubpodcast@gmail.com for any big long things you want to get off your chest, or if you want to send us stat blocks or homebrew items or basically anything. We've done 2 podcasts about homebrew submissions from our listeners. We probably have enough to do a third, but I mean, like, we will literally use all of them. So please send anything you have that you want us to talk about.
That's that. So, guys, thank you so much for listening to Creature Club Podcast. Next week, we'll talk about something else. I have been Mikey.
And I've been Dan.
Stay cool.
I was thinking about something, right? My brain does this. I think it's because my roommate's playing chess in the other room. I was just thinking about chess, and someone was saying, like, "Do you want me to play whites again?" And then I remember the line from the Harry Potter movie, "Whites go first, and then we play."
Yeah.
And I was just thinking about how in the first movie it's established that, like, Ron is really good at wizard's chess.
Yeah.
Like, good enough that he's able to beat the challenge that is supposed to, like, stop Voldemort. And I was just thinking, like, does that ever come up again? Like, that he's actually really good at this one thing? You know, like, he's never, like, implied in the books or in the movies particularly to be like smart or, like, really good at any kind of thinking as a result of this wizard chess hobby. And I was I don't know. That's all I was just thinking about. I was like,
I've never
kind of an abandoned plot point.
I never read or seen the movie past Order of the Phoenix, so I have no idea if wizard's chess shows up in the last 2 books.
I feel like it doesn't, like, it might get occasional, like, side mentions. It's like, when they're in the common room, it says on the book, like, oh, and Ron's playing a bit of wizard chess with someone or whatever.
Yeah.
But I just feel like it doesn't ever, like, it's like, his clear, like, talent for this thing. I don't think it ever comes up again.
Yeah.
That's all. I was just thinking about it, and I don't know. And this is, I guess, an open appeal. We can stick this at the end of the episode, I hope.
Yeah.
If any of our listeners know if wizard chess comes up again in Harry Potter, please let us know.
Let us know, yeah. At Creature Club Pod on Twitter.
That's actually the easiest place to tell us, definitely.
Do you know what always pisses me off about that line? And I don't know, it shouldn't, but the way he says, "Whites go first and then we play." I'm like, but you're already playing, You're already, like, the game started. So, like, what?
Yeah, it's like as if that's like, once white has taken a turn, then the game started, even though white taking its first turn is, like, that's the start.
Yeah.
Like, before that, like, when you're actually thinking about your first
move.
move.
Observing white's first move should be, like, part of the game, It's I don't know why. Even when I was a kid, I was just like, that's a stupid line.
No, I mean, I think that's absolutely fair. Like, yeah.
Absolutely. All right.
I think in the context of the movie, if I recall correctly, the main characters had to take on the role of the black pieces. So what Ron might have been saying is, once we're in position, the game, white will make its first move and then we play.
Yeah.
Like we don't do anything yet. So in context, it's kind of fair, but I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah.
Like, it does sound dumb.
That's why, like, you know, when I was a kid, that's why I first thought. But now looking back, it's like that's probably what he meant. But it still kind of just angers me a bit, you know.
No, that's absolutely fine.
But no, it did. I think it pissed me off more when I was a kid than it does now, to be honest. Because right now, I don't care. I got other stuff to worry about than lines in Harry Potter.
Good.
You know.
I would certainly, I'd imagine so.
I got a job now. I got Creature Club to make.
Yeah, I got Creature Club to make.
Cool. All right.